I find myself here, in my personal hell. My flesh decays, and my soul is tortured. I feel a pain worse than any experienced on earth. It's a pain I can't describe to you. I don't know if it can be described to anyone. But I know it's real. And there's nowhere else I want to be. Now I'm going to tell you everything, so please just listen. The story is not for the faint of heart, nor is it for anyone who doesn't understand the power of the mind and will. My name is Sebastian Wells, and this is my Inferno. I woke up in a dark room staring up at the ceiling. At first, I didn't know where I was. I tried to get up, but when I did, so much pain shot through me that it was absolutely unbearable, like I was beaten and left for dead. I screamed, I cried, I sobbed. I felt a sense of total despair. I didn't know what was happening, why I was here, or what I was to face. All I could do was lay there and scream in pain. I tried to move my head to look around, but it hurt too much. Somehow managing to roll over and tasting bile in my throat, I realized I was lying on a large sort of steel bed in the middle of a square room. The walls of the room were dark and covered in metal panels. Spiders and cobwebs decorated every corner. A coating of ash and soot covered the floor like snow on a lawn. Where the hell was I? It looked like some kind of prison cell, but what did I do? Why was I here? I couldn't remember. In fact, I couldn't remember anything. My name, where I came from, anything from my past, nothing. My mind was completely blank, distant from reality. Maybe minutes, maybe hours, maybe days, maybe even weeks went by. I couldn't tell the time. All I did was lay there for an indefinite period, trying to null the pain I felt. I occasionally cried for help, but no one came. The pain was relentless, and I wondered how long it would last before I was unconscious and never to wake again. After who knows how long, as I was laying on my stomach groaning with my arm dangling over the side of the bed, I slipped down and fell. The fresh pain, along with the mounds of soot and ash that made its way down my throat, knocked the wind out of me. I sat there clutching my shoulder and waist, occasionally coughing up black coffee ground-looking blood. Taking in my surroundings on the floor, I could see that there was a dim gray hue to the room. Everything looked discolored, a ghostly pale. It seemed to be illuminated by something, but there was no light source that I could see. The spiders all scattered away from me. I was truly alone. I didn't see any windows anywhere, but there was, however, a door. A door you can see just by looking. You had to feel it, as weird as that sounds. When you're ready, it will make itself known to you. Anyways, I used all my strength to pull myself up, using the steel bed as support. Struggling to my feet, I limped towards the door. As I approached it, I began to hear a cacophony of noises coming from the other side. It kept getting louder and louder. Voices, laughter, crying, screaming, bangs, bumps, you name it. I could barely hear myself think, but I didn't care. I felt drawn to it. I stood about a foot away from it, just staring at it. The noises now were deafening. It was every possible noise someone ever or could ever make being played to me. It was the music to my death. Without thinking, I grabbed the rusty handle and pulled the door open to see. Nothing. Just nothing, an empty void. That's the best way I can describe it. It was just static, white noise in a way that enveloped my entire field of view. My heart pumped out like a jet plane as blood raced through my veins. I peered out into the vastness of it all. I felt a chill run through me as I saw nothing, not even darkness. A part of me wanted to hide from it, but the more I tried, the more I couldn't resist it. It compelled me to keep going. I was a speck in a cosmic ocean, just a tiny mote of dust, an insignificant speck in an abyss of nothing. I stepped into it, and everything faded to black. My eyes snapped open again, my head throbbing, body drenched in sweat, pulse thumping like a drum. It wasn't as bad as before, but still scary nonetheless, like waking up from a nightmare. Slowly I sat up, leaning on my elbows, utterly confused. I couldn't tell where I was at first, but as I looked around, I realized I was lying on the floor of a hospital room. There was a hospital bed with a bunch of medical equipment surrounding it, including an electrocardiogram that was displaying a flat line. A clock on a nightstand to the right read 2:15 p.m. Sunlight peered through a window with the shades drawn on it, It was just a normal hospital room. Strange. Why was I here? I rubbed my head to try and shake the lingering headache and groggily got up off the floor. Once I got my balance, I headed over to the window and peered through the blinds. It was a bright, sunny day in some town I didn't recognize. Cars drove past and people walked up and down the street. A couple birds flew by. Interesting, I thought. That's when I heard voices behind me. I turned around, but no one was there. "Hello?" I called out, but no one responded. I swore I heard something. As I started to head towards the source of the noise, there were more voices and I could hear laughter, as if a group of people were somewhere nearby. But I couldn't make out any of the words they were saying. They came as fast as they went, fading into and out of existence. I had to be going crazy or something. Right as I was about to exit the hospital room to try and follow those voices, my hand bumped a nearby table. Sitting on it were a bunch of neatly arranged syringes and a cup filled with some liquid, presumably water. The syringes were different colors, and had a piece of yellow tape attached to them that had words written on them in Sharpie. I picked the first one up. This one was blue. It had the word stubborn on it. The next was red with the word pain. After that was green with the word misery, and so on. None of it made any sense to me at the time. I put them back down on the table and went over to the door. The closer I got to it, the more voices I could hear. I pressed my ear up against it. The hospital seemed as lively as ever. When I opened the door, though, there was no one there. What the hell? Where were all these voices coming from? I came out into a long corridor. Doors leading into different rooms lined either side of the hall, all of them closed. A bench and a couple potted flowers were dotted around. A gurney sat up against the wall. Besides the room I just came from, everything also was tinted a muted teal color. The floor was a dull silver. It was cold like a funeral chapel. I shuddered and ran my fingers through my hair. Something was very wrong. Making my way down the corridor, my footsteps echoing through the building, I couldn't help but feel like I was being watched. I kept turning around because I would either hear a voice or some kind of thump. Every single time, though, it was nothing. A door creaked open, then shut. Laughter was all around me. I started to wonder whether I was losing it. I tried all the doors, but there was nothing behind them. And by nothing, I literally mean nothing. When I peeked in, all I saw was a cold and uninviting blackness. The doors were locked anyway, so I couldn't have gotten in even if I wanted to. I finally came up to some double doors at the end. These ones weren't locked like the others. Like before, I heard noises on the other side. I knew it was nothing, my mind playing tricks on me, but another part of me was relieved. When I look back now, I was just desperate. I wanted anything to happen. I pushed the doors open into another corridor, still completely silent. A bright light shone down from the other side of the corridor. As I got closer, I came to the main lobby. The bright light was a giant window leading to the outside, connected to the entrance doors. I ran over and tried to open the door, but it was locked. I kicked it, punched it, but it wouldn't budge. I was getting a little frantic. I tried grabbing a nearby chair from the waiting area so I could break the glass, but I couldn't pick it up. It weighed 1,000,000 pounds. In fact, I couldn't pick anything up. I noticed there were people outside walking past the hospital. I tried banging on the doors to get their attention, yelling and screaming out to them, but they didn't pay any attention to me. However, that's when I began to notice something strange about these people. First of all, none of them had any facial features at all. I'm not kidding you. No hair, no eyes, no nose, no mouth, no ears, no nothing. They reminded me of the mannequins at clothing stores. In fact, all of the men were wearing the exact same black suit and carrying briefcases. All the women were wearing the exact same black dress and high heels. There was no variation to any of them. They all walked the same, like mirror images of each other. Another thing I noticed was, as I walked by the hospital, they would almost slow down. Like all of a sudden a switch was pulled and they were now in slow motion. As they went away from the hospital, they would speed up again. I saw one or two deviate from their path and approach the hospital entrance, but when they got close, they would just fade away and disappear. I looked out into the parking lot. All the cars looked the same too. Some of the people just passed right through the cars like they weren't there. Some were walking in the streets right into oncoming traffic, but they weren't hit. I had to look away. It hurt. What the hell was happening? Was I dreaming? No matter how many times I tried to snap myself out of it, the realization would come back. I took a step back until I hit the receptionist's desk. Papers and documents were strewn all about. I picked up one of them. It was small and rather basic. It read, "This is to certify that Sebastian Anthony Wells was dedicated to God on the day of March 4th. Signed, Mother and Father." I didn't know who Sebastian Wells was at the time. I checked the other papers, but they were all blank. That's when I noticed the computer on the other side of the desk. It was really old, probably from the 90s or early 2000s. When I walked around the desk to it, I saw that it was on. Something was displayed on the monitor. A young man stared back at me, surrounded in a veil of darkness. He was admittedly very handsome, being about the same age as me, with a regal face, swirling honey gold eyes, very pronounced cheekbones, and long, very straight platinum blonde hair that flowed down his shoulders. From what I could see, he was wearing some sort of black suit, the same suit that all the fake men were wearing outside. He didn't look like them, though. He was different. "Hello? Can you help me?" I asked, totally unnerved by the whole situation. He didn't respond. I tried calling out to him a few more times, but it was useless. All the guy did was stare back at me, his face totally emotionless. A bit of a creepy feeling was coming over me. The more I stared at his face, the more uneasy I became. There was something wrong with him. He was a little too perfect. His eyes were completely blank and hollow. It was as if his soul was completely missing altogether. I was hopeless. I had no idea what was happening to me and why I had become a victim of some sort of ghost world. Was I drunk? High? I didn't know. I felt a warm tear fall down my cheek, feeling a sob well up inside of me. I couldn't take it anymore. Kicking the receptionist's desk in rage and confusion and letting out a scream, I fell down to the floor and began to cry. For a long time I stayed on the floor, crying and wondering what I was getting myself into. I need to get out of this place, but how? That's when my hand grazed something on the floor. I looked down at it, a few tears still dropping down onto it. It was another piece of paper. Holding it up, I stared at it for a few seconds before finally focusing on it. Written in very scripted and inky handwriting, it read, "Welcome to the afterlife. For the dead, this is paradise." The afterlife? I'm dead? There was no way. How did I die? My eyes were still completely dry and had stopped crying. The reality of it all was completely unbelievable. It couldn't be. How? What happened? What did I do wrong? My heart was beating at a faster rate, my chest and throat growing tighter. I felt a chill run through me, feeling like it was going to be the last time I felt this. It's over. It's finally fucking over. I was going to be stuck in this damn hospital forever, counting the number of mannequin people outside like they're sheep. I stood up and began to pace around, trying to make sense of my situation. I was still in the same mental anguish of my thoughts. My mind felt like it was going to explode. Was this what the afterlife was like? Was it hell? Right as I thought that, my head suddenly burst with pain. I winced and covered my head with my hands to block the pain as best I could, but it was no use. I could barely stand on my own 2 feet. In my weakened state, I collapsed to the floor. I was so weak, I could barely hear the sounds around me. It was like being underwater. The sounds became muffled. Screaming in agony and coughing up blood and mucus onto the floor, I suddenly blacked out. Feeling the laughter and crying surrounding and engulfing me in their evil.